In the heart of the Middle Tennessee countryside, where the sound of hymns drifts lazily through the air, we find two curious specimens.
Nerds.
The modern churchgoers, often referred to as idiots by their more discerning peers. Observe as they engage in a most fascinating ritual, debating the very essence of the contemporary Christian church.
I don't like pop music.
With a blend of youthful exuberance and charming naivety, these two misguided souls explore the intricacies of faith, community, and the occasional misguided meme. Their banter is a delicate dance of confusion and insight, providing a glimpse into the bewildering landscape of modern spirituality. Join us as we delve into their delightful discourse, where absurdity meets revelation, and the search for meaning unfolds in the most unexpected of ways. Will they uncover wisdom, or simply get lost in their own hilarity? Let us find out together.
So tonight we're gonna change gears a little bit, and we're gonna talk about Christianity a little bit. And I think a good topic to start with is the judgmental side of the church in general and Christianity as a whole. Before we start, I want to give my boy a little plug right here. If you know, you know. Dave, we love you, man. Go for it.
What is that?
It's his unit.
I want one.
Yeah, I can get you one.
Yeah? Dope.
DAPS rule, mother. That's what I stand for, yeah.
So that's the thing. So we were laughing the other day. We were talking about, how we are as guys, and we know a lot of guys like us. And there's a joke,
We'll explain guys like us real quick.
Guys like us. We're like not, I mean, I may be a nerd, but I'm not a dork, Nerds.
Booger. Our audience is too young for that one.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
not.
But, there's an element of masculinity and responsibility, and you have no problem saying that we have shortcomings that we deal with, and I don't need to walk around saying I'm perfect and my life is perfect and my household always runs very perfectly and smoothly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of what goes out there. And we were laughing. There's that joke, I'm from the Southside of the kingdom.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. You probably should explain that.
And I like that, I was kind of I lived went to especially my junior high and high school were on the south side of the tracks, It was kind of rough and tumble school. But I think we talk about judgmental people in the church. I'll say this to kick it off, because it's been hard on my mind, and we're dealing with this with some folks that we know. The worst thing you can do, in my opinion, as a Christian, is push people away from the church because of your judgmental attitudes and and I think there's a balance that needs to be drawn. You and I aren't going to go and hang out on Broadway and put ourselves, sitting in a bar.
But here's the thing. And I am guilty of being judgmental. I am working on that. And I'm going to go to your Broadway comment, though. My experience as someone who goes to a quote-unquote non-denominational church, when you take the ritualistic side of church out, especially when they identify as not ritualistic, I think some people justify certain behaviors that maybe what an old school Christian wouldn't do it, or if they did it, they wouldn't be open about it. I almost feel like now it's almost this vibe, I'm saved, so I'm good. I'm going to go and
do whatever I want
because I know I'm saved. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. No one's perfect, and you can't live.
But it's not a hall pass either.
Yeah. And my opinion is if you're hanging out, maybe in places like I used to hang out before when I was really struggling, I think it's just you're opening the door to temptation.
100%. I put it this way, too. I think if you're a new Christian, there's a story that goes around a lot, and it's this kid, and he's just got baptized, saved, and he asked the preacher, so I guess now I got to quit partying and drinking and doing all the things I was doing. And the pastor says, no, you don't have to.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you mean? And like, if I belong to this church, shouldn't I stop doing this and that and the other? And the pastor says, basically, if you meant it, watch what God does to change what you desire in your life.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
I think there's a really strong point to that. I also think you shouldn't go put yourself in a position to, be tempted or lose your testimony.
Yeah.
But you said you were judgmental. What does that mean?
So I think when I've been back in church for, what was this, September? So 3 years. 3 years I've been back in church. And for me, being raised in a pretty strict, ritualistic church upbringing, which I honestly like that. I like the old school church vibe. There are issues with it like other ones, but the judgmental piece of it is kind of going to your point about hanging out on Broadway. Sometimes it's hard for me to give people grace in areas when if they knowingly know what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Because I feel conflicted about stuff, so I feel like, well, I shouldn't be in that environment because, okay, let's use a bar. There are certain places I don't feel comfortable in because, and we've talked about this, if I'm going to an event that's all alcohol based, I struggle with that.
Sure.
That doesn't mean those are bad people. That just means I struggle with that. So sometimes in a Christian mindset, I kind of say, whoa, I'm not supposed to be around that. But then you could flip that and say, well, you can still minister to people or be a light even in an environment like that. But for me personally, it can be too much temptation sometimes.
Sure.
And it reminds me of a bad period in my life. But I miss it. Like, I miss the piece where I feel like an outcast, which is my own issue. But like, if you threw a house party and everyone was drinking and I'm not, even if well, it's because I feel almost out of place with it. So as a Christian sometimes, and I've gotten better with it, but I think you can slide into that judgmental zone if you're not careful. And you're not supposed to be judgmental. No one's perfect. Obviously, we're all sinners at the end of the day. But for me anyways, I know I struggle with that. And most of it, the judgment part, probably a lot of it is me internally. Not coming out right now. I have been outspoken on a few things, but yeah, I know where you're going with that. But yeah.
Look, I think it's good to be a little outspoken. I think it's good if you love somebody and you care about somebody. And we have this conversation a lot of like, if you went on vacation and you came back and you were 350 pounds and you looked terrible and your health had taken a dive and now all of a sudden you got diabetes and you're fat, I would say, Steve, what happened?
You're very judgmental, sir.
I'm very judgmental about that because I care about you.
I think there's a way to do it.
Your health to be
maybe there's a way to do it and not be judgmenable. You know what I mean?
I think
giving it maybe.
I think it's called for. Like, hey, listen, I care about you enough, and I think that's also biblical. Is like if you're gonna admonish somebody, it needs to be done out of love.
Yeah.
If it's not done out of love, then it's wrong, and you just should keep your mouth shut.
Or personal gain,
right?
You know, if you're doing it to make yourself feel better.
But like, I would care about you, and I'd say, dude, we got to fix this.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, but it is hard too. Like, you're not in charge of anyone's salvation. At the end of the day, it's up to Christ. And I'm talking to the people that are in the church, not people that aren't.
That's right.
You know, maybe let's say they're not followers of Christ yet. I don't think you and I are in charge of someone who is saved, their salvation.
No, and that's where I come into play of saying, like, this is what bothers me about churches in general, is what I think people see and what I know people see, because I've got a lot of friends that are very much not Christian and don't want to be. They're very good people, but they have been beat up on and pushed away from churches because of the way that Christians in America in particular act. Yeah. They don't feel accepted, wanted, or...
Let's talk about that. Maybe let's shed some light on, you know, the perception.
All right, so let's start on Sunday afternoon, right after church. What happens? Because I'm in the service industry, right? I come from restaurants.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with that one. Yeah.
What happens right after church?
They go eat lunch.
Sunday is everybody in the hospitality industry's least favorite day to work.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard that a lot.
As time hits, you're like, oh, here they come.
I've heard that a lot.
They're the worst tippers. They're the rudest. They're the most up and ready to like jump down a waiter's or a waitress's throat about wait times, food being whatever.
Yeah.
They're the worst. The absolute worst customers for hospitality. Now you tell me, like, if I'm a non-Christian and I see this, this is my example of like, this is what it means to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to be part of your club.
I totally understand.
People are horrible.
Yeah, I understand.
Horrible.
Yeah.
The pagan dude down the street, he comes in and he tips well and he's patient and kind and treats me nice. Why would I ever be on your team?
Yeah.
People got to watch that sort of stuff, man, because we're like, you might have just felt great about yourself and you went and did your thing at church and ooh. Now it's time to get mine. You can't do that.
No.
You can't do that.
Yeah, and I think it breaks down to like what are people looking for in a church? Why are they there? And we just had this talk. I mean, I'm not a person looking for a feel good message or a lovey dovey.
Sure.
That's just not my thing. I want to kind of be.
You want to get beat up over the head a little bit.
And be put back on track. I don't need to be told I'm wonderful. But that's just my personality.
Well, no, and I think it's important that churches, and I think good churches really understand this balance, because if I'd never been to church before and I walk in and they're like, "You're all going to hell," I'd be like, "Okay, never mind. Wrong church for me."
That's funny.
So I think it's important, like if you go to a church and they're just speaking straight biblical truth, that's going to be whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like whatever chapter you're studying on that Sunday is what it is.
Yeah.
Paul beats you over the head a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's also some lovey-dovey, really great things, and so it's just like whatever's being read is being read. I think that's fantastic. What matters the most, though, is like when you walk in, do you feel like you're a weirdo who everybody's like, you know, like an old Western town, and you walk in and the whole pub and saloon just like stops and stares at you?
Dude, and I'll tell you, man, like, I mean, every other Sunday, I know people at church, but I'm walking in by myself and it still feels uncomfortable.
Odd.
Because people, like, I was sitting by someone several months ago, and somebody I know, and there was a guy by himself, and the first thing she said was, "I wonder why that guy's by himself." Like,
I don't know. Go talk to him.
Yeah,
You know?
maybe he just wants to check it out, because he's not with his family, and he was probably, my age, but still, it's like, there you go. There's already the judgment piece.
Well, and
what's wrong with that guy? Why is he by
and it
himself?
hurts people, and I think especially when you talk about, I hear this a lot out of our elders, preachers, and folks in multiple churches, because I work with a couple different churches and on different projects, and they say things like, well, the younger generations just aren't coming to church and they just have no interest and they're falling away from the church. And it's like, well, when all you do is make them feel weird for existing, like, is that somewhere you want to go? Yeah. And I think it comes back to like, if you don't dress like Ned Flanders, Oakley dokley, here we go. It's just not like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not comfortable. It's not good. And also, it's not real, because I've seen y'all in traffic. You Ned Flanderses out there. I've seen y'all in traffic with the fish on your car, cutting everybody off and throwing the bird. Okay? I spend hours on the road every single week, and I see y'all.
That's funny.
It's not real.
That's funny, man.
So just be real.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
it's a real problem. It's a real problem. And I love Christians, but I also think Christians need to get real. I think everybody needs to wake up and realize that the book about Corinthians and the book about the Philippians and all these things, these letters to the churches, are about our churches here today too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That teaching did not just, they were in trouble. Bro, no, that's about you.
Yeah.
That's about your church right now today. And you ought to read that and go, that's relatable.
So, okay, how do we change that?
Well, again, I think it starts with a couple things. I think that the leadership in churches across the board need to stand up and stop being lazy. And they also need to be very honest with themselves and stop this caricature of what they think a Christian should look like in 2024 in the United States, wherever you live. Right? Like, you got to stop. We've had the Ned Flanders. We know what, we come to church in a sweater vest and our little tie tucked in, and we talk like we don't talk. the rest of the week, and it's just fake. Like, stop. Absolutely stop it. If you spent half as much time and energy in actually reaching out and going out and seeing the perspective of what this new generation, what do they call it, Gen Z?
I think so, yeah.
What's on their minds and what they think about today's society, and getting out there and actually just talking to people in a real way and accepting however they talk to you back, right?
Yeah.
It would go a long way.
Yeah.
And also, I think that you would go to church on Sunday and you would be a little disgusted with how everything pans out.
Church it's so different nowadays too, at least in Williamson County. It's so different than what I saw growing up. I think there's an entertainment piece here that I'd never seen before. And for me, kind of being old school,
Yep.
And at first it was really hard for me to get used to it, and I'm still not 100% comfortable with it. But I mean, let's just be real. I only like live music if I know the band.
Sure.
I love music.
Yep.
But if you ask me tonight to go to, what's the place everybody goes here on the square? There's some little bar everybody goes to for live music. I can't think of it. Kimbro's.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to go hear some guy sing.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, if like the Deftones came to town real quick, I'd be like, dude, let's go see the Deftones. But
I'd be about it.
They're talented. They get paid to play.
That's right.
I like those guys. I listen to those guys. But I'm just not a music guy, man.
See, but that's funny because I play in the worship band. And I want it louder, bigger, and better, and like,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's a real interesting element. I think there's a place for everything, but also there's churches that just, you know, they get up there and they open the hymnal and sing.
See, I like that.
And I think that's fantastic.
I like that,
too.
man. And I'll tell you what, though, we're metalheads. I'm a metalhead, so it's hard for me to go into a church where it's pop.
Yeah.
It's cheesy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna be a person, and this may upset some people, but I'm just gonna kick the real deal, man.
Yep.
And when you're up there in a pop band singing pop songs,
That's right.
you change the lyrics to these pop songs. That's just not my thing, man. There are so many cool Christian metal bands out there.
There is.
And that I can get into. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but
No, I throw the distortion on my pedal.
you know, I can't get into the whole, you know, everybody say hey, everybody say ho, we're gonna do some pop. I can't do that, man.
That's right.
And I'm gonna pull this in real fast. The church is very feminine. The building, the decor, most of the people. I mean,
let's talk about
you know,
that, because again, when we talk about how do you change the modern church and get these things fixed, why are churches all feminine like that?
because guys don't want to go to church.
Because moms go to church and they drag their husbands, or daddy stays home.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for a few generations now. But that's a real problem.
Dude, my grandfather was a preacher. He was in the Marine Corps and wore his cowboy boots. And dude, if I walked into church, like I could totally rock this right now. Ball cap, t-shirt, I got shorts on, flip-flops. And, you know, he would knock me out, dude. Like, he would straight up knock me out right there.
That's
like, and I know I'm shifting subjects a little bit, but he was a man's man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a straight up dude. Was in the Marine Corps. He ain't playing around. But now you kind of look at some of the mega preachers out there, and it's like that dude couldn't change a tire.
That's right.
Joe, you think Joel Osteen could change a tire? No.
I think Joel Osteen has a problem unlocking the door,
Yeah, it's good.
especially if it's wet outside.
He don't want his Lambo getting stolen. But like dudes like that are put on this pedestal, and they're soft, man. They're soft.
They are soft. The church has gone soft. The men in the church have gone soft. The women of the church are the leaders of the church, and I mean the church as a collective body, not the building.
Yeah.
The women are leading our churches,
Right.
And that's
Which means they're leading our sons.
Which means they're leading our sons, and they're setting the example for our daughters, and they're like, this is a real challenge and a real problem. So when we say what happened and why do we do to fix these things, again, it all comes back to like, if you're a man, you have a family, you are, wanting to be a Christian. Again, I know some really, really gentle, sweet souls of men that are still manly, dude. They still go out there and they can, chop wood and fix their truck and they do their jobs. They're just gentle people.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. Mr. Rogers was gentle. Dude was a man,
Was he?
Yeah, dude.
Was he a man?
He was a man.
I don't know.
He was a man's man.
No, there's rumors he was a sniper in Vietnam.
I don't think that's true, but the way he led
Yeah.
and the way he refused to give in he didn't give in to the pressures of TV. He didn't give in to when he was sat in front of Congress and had to fight for his...
He went to Congress?
He went to Congress because they were trying to cut away public broadcasting.
Oh, wow.
And he sat there, and he didn't yell. He stayed true to who he was, and he stayed the course, and he convinced that Congress to keep public broadcasting alive. And he did so genuinely, and that's as manly as you could ever ask.
See, I watch manly shows. I watched A-Team and Airwolf and Fall Guy. That's what I watched.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
A-Team
Hannibal.
awesome. I still have that show.
That's what I watched.
That show's awesome.
That's what I watched.
Heroes.
That's a good
And
show.
MASH.
Yeah.
Andy Griffith is the best show of all time.
But yeah, MASH. You're too young for MASH. Hogan's Heroes is older than that, though.
I love them. So, but my thing is, like, if you gotta take account for who you are, you gotta know who you are.
Yeah.
And you got to take leadership of your family and by, de facto, back into the church. Men are lazy in our churches. They are the laziest.
Well, and I think society glorifies men being lazy now.
1000%.
And I think, it all boils down to lead from the front. And if you don't have your main leader displaying that, it's going to be hard for men to want to follow that.
Well, and it echoes in the halls of these churches that you said it the best, like they're very feminized, our churches, because we're there to attract the women, because who's going to bring it in and who's going to convince the husband, hey, we need to pay tithes.
Well, and I'm
bad about this. Like Stephanie be like, do we need to pay tithe this week? And I'm like, yeah, but I've got it on a schedule. Like I know what we're doing.
Right.
But my thing is like, look, if you're not leading your family and you're not leading inside the church, we got big problems. And of course the younger generation is
It boils down to my favorite word in the English language: discipline.
Yeah.
And that department is lacking significantly in the church.
I want to talk about that for a second because,
in my opinion, of course,
discipline looks different to everybody. Like, and I'm an artist and I'm artsy.
You're very artsy. It's good though.
Self-discipline has never been like natural to me. I have to like physically, like I get up every morning at the same exact time and I go and work out at the same exact time and I keep my routine. And you can boil all that down and say it takes a lot of self-discipline to do that, and it does. But that does not come natural to me. And like, I think you're probably not like this.
But you could argue, I've had discipline in areas of the physical realm, but not the mental realm. When it came to bad habits, I didn't have discipline with alcohol. So
how do you maintain your discipline?
I think for me, growing up, it was kind of always understood in our house that you do your best. It wasn't forced down our throats, but I always want to be better than the other guy.
Sure. So you're
Ever since I was a little kid, I'm very competitive in everything, and I've always kind of had that. Now that can be bad because then you are too hard on yourself, but the discipline piece, I take lead from the front very serious. I've always been like that, and so when it comes to anything physical, like I know, I'm going to change subjects real fast just to prove a point. Nowadays, it is celebrated to not be in shape and be a personal trainer. That drives me insane. It drives me insane, dude. It's celebrated, trust me. So for me, if I own a fitness business, I need to be in shape. I need to look the part, act the part, live the part. You can't see off camera, but we've got birthday cake here. But so I didn't
we work hard to eat that.
That's but I'm just being funny. So I don't expect someone to come to me to want to make a lifestyle change. I couldn't look them in the eye and train them if I wasn't doing the same thing myself.
1000%.
And when I was a police officer, I wore my uniform a certain way. This beard, this nasty beard now, is green lighted for cops. I would not have this beard, even if the chief said you could have it in a uniform. I would not have it.
Sure.
I would not. I would be totally clean shaven, except for No Shave November. I'd have a mustache.
Yeah.
But so I've always kind of been that way, man. Yeah. Like I've just kind of taken it to the extreme, but I'm never satisfied. Like physically, I want to do. I want to add more muscle. I want to do this. So I'm always constantly on myself. So the discipline piece in that realm comes easy. Now the mental health stuff, I had to really lean into it. That was harder for me. So I'm not like well-rounded maybe in the discipline area, but when I'm talking about discipline in the church, leading by example, I'm hitting on the manly piece that you were talking about. leading your family, lead your family. But
My thing is, I think, and this is where it boils down to again, and Jesus even said, like, if anything that you ask of the Father, he will give you happily.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, well, give me $1 million, bro. Like,
you just call
hello.
it bro. You call
You
it
know?
bro.
It's not, doesn't mean that. What he means is, hey, God, like I really struggle with self-discipline, and I know
Yeah.
I need to be doing this and this and this. I can't figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's not natural to me, and you know this better than me. Can you please help me?
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to say no to you on that?
He's gonna help.
He's going to help, and it's going to be instilled in you.
But he wants you to put him in everything.
But exactly.
So
So the second you do that, now all of a sudden you're relying on God, which
We're supposed to.
we're supposed to do.
yeah, totally.
So for me, self-discipline does not come natural. And I'm a competitive person, but I'm also the person that's like, nah, you can have it.
Yeah, but you
know what I mean?
You talked in your testimony about how hard you worked when you were in culinary school.
Yeah, 1000%.
That's discipline.
Yeah.
You weren't even sleeping. You were going to class and working full time. That's discipline.
Yeah, I'm just mean. I just want it more.
Well, I'm just saying, but you're a disciplined person.
Yeah, I think there's elements where I'm not disciplined.
There's a lot of grown men out there that don't have a job, never had a job. We're in a music city. Half of these jokers, and you probably like this because you like music.
Yeah.
They say I'm a country singer. They've never been on the radio. They've never had a
been on
record
stage.
deal. If they had a record deal, they never went anywhere. But they don't work.
Yep.
But it's like, dude, that's not a man.
No, and I
You
think
provide for your family.
I think again, it comes down to, it's like, look, you got to ask, and you got to be willing to put yourself out there. And again, like we say this a lot, but like, just be real.
Yeah.
You know yourself. If you're really honest with yourself, like, I don't have the discipline. When you say, I don't have time to exercise, I'm just so tired. What you're really saying is you're lazy. Because you do have time.
What did Arnold say?
You like discipline. You like discipline. Oh, you need to sleep faster.
Your mom is, I had to wipe your little
I only sleep 4 hours a day. Sleep faster. But seriously, you do have the time. Everybody has the time.
Yeah.
You're lazy. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Arrow & Co. Looking to transform your space into a sanctuary of elegance and relaxation? Discover Blue Arrow & Co. Handcrafted luxury candles with a decorative statement. Each candle is carefully crafted with all-natural, eco-friendly ingredients, filling your home with intoxicating aromas, like the best-selling seasonal scents, pumpkin chai or white winter. Whether you're winding down after a long day, setting the mood for a special occasion, or simply indulging in some me time, Blue Arrow & Co. has the perfect scent to make every moment unforgettable. Explore their exclusive collections and find your perfect candle at bluearrowandco.com. That's bluearrowandco.com.
But you also have time in the church to work on your growth and leading your family. So it all ties in.
I'm really judgmental on Christian men. I do it out of love because I love the church, and I think the church deserves better. And more than that, I think that the people out there that don't know Christ and don't have a relationship, they deserve a church body that encompasses the entire world, that cares enough to actually do the things that they preach about.
Yeah.
And not go to the restaurant and be horrible to the serving staff, and not drive like jerks and have no grace on the road. I fall into that category.
I do too, man. I struggle. Driving's my nemesis.
But seriously, like, people deserve better. The world deserves better class of Christians. And we are so arrogant in our churches here that we think that, okay, Sunday's done, check it off the box, go home, do whatever I want to. And it's horrible. So yeah, whenever we talk about judgment, I'm judgmental against the people out there. And I'm really hard on myself on this too. If I'm a jerk on the road, I go, man, it's like that's not right.
There's one thing that we haven't hit on yet about church.
It's a business.
It is a business.
It's a big business, dude. At least in Williamson County, Franklin, Tennessee, it is a huge business.
So there's a few churches in Nashville area that feed a majority of the major Christian labels and Christian
music?
artists, music.
Oh, okay.
So they come out of these churches.
Oh, really?
And if you get picked up on this worship team, it's like a big deal, because the odds are in the next year, 18 months, you're going to be traveling the world, big record deal, multi-million-dollar business. not only that, but like obviously, like a church is a nonprofit, right? Every church, small church, big church, whatever, yeah, they're taking in money.
Oh, yeah.
To serve the community and do whatever they do with. Some of that serves more internally and some more externally. But it is a business, dude.
Yeah,
and some of them are a big racket.
Yeah.
Joel Osteen.
I don't understand the Christian music industry, so I don't have a lot of insight or input on it because I don't really understand. I don't understand the music industry at all. I just don't. I don't get it. And I live in the Music City area. I don't understand it. To me, it's like being an actor or a ball player. I don't get it. To me, it's like fantasy world. I don't understand it. And I love music. I really do. But I don't understand why it takes 10 people to write one song about a red Solo cup and a dog in it. I don't understand that. Right. Zach Wilde writes his own music, folks. Go look him up. He's the man.
He does too.
And he's not country.
He does too.
But
that iconic picture of his guitar with just blood streaming down his fingers. Ah, man.
And you know Zach Wilde is a Christian.
Yes, he is.
He's the man.
And he's not a...
He's not a punk.
He's not a punk.
He's jacked.
Yeah, dude.
And he's in his late 50s. I love Zach Wilde,
He's
by
awesome.
the way. Shelley, if you're watching this, you know how much I love Zach Wilde. He's my boy.
So, yeah, look, it is a business. I do think also when we prioritize the business of the church over the people in the community, it's a big, big problem. There's something to be said. I had a preacher, and he's a mega church pastor, and we were talking about kind of the spectacle, right? I mean, they've got like their winter big program that they put on is like 3 days of music and crazy.
Like a Christmas thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so they do this like, they've got all these big name artists that come out, Christian music artists, they've got ice skating, and I mean, like, this thing has to cost $750,000 plus to put on.
Where's this at?
In Nashville.
Well, like where? Like at Bridgestone or something?
No, it's at their church. It's just that big.
Wow.
I'm not going to say who it is.
Oh, okay.
But I we're talking about this, and I'm like, it just seems like a lot,
Yeah.
And is that?
Do they sell tickets for you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so his thing is, he said, what it does is it brings people from the community in, and then we get the opportunity to spend one-on-one time with them and kind of, minister to them in that way. I think there's something to be said about that. Is it my cup of tea? No.
Yeah.
And do I think a lot's missed there? Like, okay, could you do this with a tenth of that and then do, like all the hungry kids in Nashville that are scared they're not going to eat tonight?
Right.
Could we use that money for that? Yeah. That's what I would do with it, but everybody's going to do their thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a complicated subject, but what's sad is there's so many people out there that I think are searching for Jesus and want to know more about him, but they're turned off because of the culture of church.
Well, and again, if you talk about the culture of church, and the church culture is putting on big spectacles at Christmas, but my kid is starving and I'm working 3 jobs, and where's Jesus to help me right now?
Right.
Does this big spectacle of a Christmas show do it for me? Probably not.
Yeah. See, man, the way I was raised, I mean, we celebrated Christmas, but in our church, it wasn't the event that some churches make it.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it should be. What I do think is that if we spent more time as a church doing things like, feeding the hungry and taking care of the widows and making sure, it's like it was written in a book or something.
Yeah.
What is that book called?
That's
the Bible.
No. I'm trying to think of the book in the Bible that talks about that.
It's literally the job that we're given, and it's for a reason. It's because there's people out there hurting, and there's an answer to that hurt.
Right.
And the answer isn't. And look, I mean, I'm not hating. If you got a good program at your church and it's a fun, like we do a little Christmas program at our church. It's not $250,000 million program, but it's a fun little thing that draws people from the community, and I think that's great. Do I think that the church overall does a good job of feeding, clothing, and caring for the community around us? No, I don't think so. And I'm not saying one church. I'm saying the church body, the people of the church. We're bad at it.
I honestly don't know enough or have enough experience in that world to. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't have a lot of first-hand experience with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I go. I don't know how that how they use the money for that. I don't know. I know it's a big place. It makes a lot of art. The collection is really high. I don't know how that's used in that area, but I agree. I think, there are ways you can help people without making it a big production. And there's scripture too, and I can't remember which book it's in, but it talks about, like, I'll use this example. If I didn't know you and you were on the street holding a sign up, and I gave you $5,000.
Yep.
You're not supposed to, no one's supposed to know you did that.
That's
It's
right.
like an anonymous
Yeah,
donation.
don't let your left
And a lot of
hand know what your
people,
right hand's doing.
I've seen things now online on social media that, people brag about how much they tip somebody. They do it on the news.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, that's great they're doing it, that's awesome, but you're not supposed to do it for the self-glory, you're supposed to do it to help that person.
That's exactly right.
And I've tried to teach Jacob that. He's 6, and we've seen a couple people in front of Target, right down the street, at Publix, and I'll tell him, like, hey, we'll walk up and hand them a couple bucks just to say, hey, we need to be helping people.
Yep.
And who knows what they're doing with the money, but I feel like it's a good lesson for him to learn, because in this area you can live in a bubble and not, as a kid, not realize that this isn't the real world.
That's right.
This is not the cars, the houses, the stuff going on here is not, in my opinion, the real world. It's so expensive here, and I don't want him growing up thinking that this is normal.
Well, and everybody's like 2 bad decisions away from being homeless at any. Everybody. I don't care how well off you are. You're just a couple bad choices away from being homeless.
I saw a sick car today online that makes me want to be homeless, because it's awesome.
I would fall into that trap in a heartbeat. I live in my car. It's a great car.
The American V8 Nightmare.
No,
It's a Shelby
no.
Cobra, dude. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the only Mustang worth having.
Watch our show so we can buy that. And we'll wrap it. We'll put the logo on it.
Exactly.
And then I'll be the Christian. The Christian on 840 cutting people off and getting mad, because that was me this morning driving back into.
Look, I'm not saying that Christians aren't allowed to make mistakes, but I think if we're thoughtful about it, and we spend more time and energy into thinking that person might be having the worst day of their life, and I just blew past them and flipped them off instead of just saying a quick prayer of God bless you. Somebody needs to.
I think, my opinion, and I just thought of someone we both know, and he's not a Christian. I think you have to relate to somebody on their level, and then come at them as you build a rapport with trying to bring Christ into the equation. Don't start off the bat like, hey, you need Jesus, but get to know them as a person, understand where they're coming from, what their story is, and then you can kind of come in later.
Well, that's discipleship, and what we're called to do is discipleship.
Right.
It literally is our task to do that, is just get to know people and ask questions like, what's going on in your life? Oh man, my life's falling apart. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. And as you get to know this person, then you go, dude, I've been talking to you for a long time. There's an answer for all this, But now that he trusts you and you trust him, you can have that conversation.
But we said this on I guess what we call this a deep cut, because we didn't put it out on another podcast. Jesus was against the church.
Yeah,
the Pharisees hated him.
Yep.
He was basically an outlaw.
Yep.
And so if you're gonna bring people to him, I think you almost have the same approach with that, and meet them, like you just said, where they're at, and get to know them, to build that trust, and then you can start maybe bringing that into conversations, not just come out guns blazing and then run them off because you're judging them. Oh, you're living the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that goes with anything. That's not just drinking, gambling, whatever, porn,
fornicating, and fighting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, but it goes with any kind of lifestyle, and nobody's perfect, and so it's.
Well, and again, I'll say this 100 times over. Christians are really bad about pointing the finger and judging people, and that's the worst sin. I think God's rather disgusted by that behavior. I think he's hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, maybe in their defense they're trying too hard. I don't know. I don't know, man. And sometimes it's just on what you've been taught, so it's almost like you have to restructure it and come up with a new lesson plan. Not change the Bible, but come at your approach with people different. But I struggle with. It's hard for me to respect people that don't walk the walk, that don't lead from the front, and that's in anything.
Sure.
And so church, I'm more critical, just because in the book of James, he talks about teachers being held to a higher standard. So if you're out and you're a leader, you're held to a higher standard. And I kind of live like that. I kind of look at people. Will and I, and you said this on the one episode with him, we want to be around people that are better than us. That's how you grow.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to look to someone in a leadership position and say, hey, they really have it together. I want to be more like them. And I'm fortunate to be in a men's group from my church with guys that are doing way better than me spiritually, so I'm able to kind of learn and grow from them, and I can still add input and talk about my stuff, but it's motivating to kind of see them in their walk, but they're normal people.
That makes a big
They're not taking the Bible and thumping you over the head with it.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work.
No, Bible bullying is a real problem, and like
heard of that.
people do that, man. They bully you with the Bible. And they say, well, it says
It's
this.
funny. A lot of those folks seem to leave out the big piece of the Bible.
Yeah, the biggest pieces. Yeah.
Well, they don't even talk about the enemy.
I know.
I don't understand that. That's a whole other podcast, but I don't understand that.
Well, and two, it's like, I think that, again, if we're gonna make a change and see change happening, you got to know who you are, and you got to know, am I a leader? Am I a support personnel? Am I, like, what am I good at? And like, where do I fit in all this? Because some people just aren't the type that are just going to pick up and like run a mission. But man, they can sure serve food on a line and say prayers for people in the background. Like, and that's important too.
Yeah.
But it's also really important to, like, I don't know, shut up and stop all the rhetoric and like just be cool. What would your church do if a trans person walked in looking for help?
They've been hitting on that a lot lately, and that's a subject that we talked about this on another Uncut episode. I honestly don't know. I don't know how they would react. I think it goes down to, or boils down to, what you said a minute ago about the pagan example. Just treat people with respect. Be cool.
Just be cool, man.
Just be cool, man.
So here's what I anticipate happening a lot over the, like, I think a lot of people in those positions are just confused, right? If a person was lost and walked in like, oh, just disoriented, people at church would be like, hey man, what you doing? You all right? What can we do for you? Can we help you? If somebody walked in full on makeup and gear and high heels and all that, now while nobody may say anything, body language is 90% of communication, and I think a lot of people would just go, well,
dude, you've got visible tattoos. You're going to get that same heat at a lot of churches.
Get that heat.
Well, yeah, man.
I get that heat from people that are like, oh no, it's cool,
Yeah. My buddy was I don't know the term they use. He was the officer at my old church. So if his apartment class is called courtesy officer, he's working an extra job. And he's a big guy, he was tatted up. And this is an old school Church of Christ. And he used to say, like, some of these older cats would give him the hardest time about his tattoos. And I would just laugh. And I was like, man, you're here to, like, engage a threat if a threat occurs. You're working, you're here to provide security. And these guys are picking you apart over your tattoos. I just give him a hard time with laughing. But, yeah, so I think they're going to judge, they're going to pick and choose maybe certain things, but tattoos are definitely going to, in the South, they're still not the norm like maybe on the West Coast. But yeah, man, I think it's going to take guys that are younger, and I'm 45 now, so I don't know where I fall.
That's young, man. That's still young. Look,
I think it's going to take guys that are going to have to step up and be like, okay, I don't have to necessarily be a leader in the church, but I can set an example with my family, and then I can set an example when I'm outside of church. It's like some people say, you might be the only version of Jesus someone ever meets.
That's a good way.
And if you're at Shoney's after church and being an a-hole, you just turn that person off.
That's right.
And I get where you're coming from, because I've seen that firsthand.
Dude, it makes me so mad.
I went to there's a Mexican place in town. I went with some people after a Sunday night service, and I watched it. They were like rude, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And they were wearing casual clothes, but still they're representing a church.
Yep.
They're representing Jesus, and you're being an a-hole the whole time. It's like, come on, man.
I told my preacher one time I like wearing our church shirts.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a paid spokesman for the church, which is an idea, if you're listening. But
Come on, we gotta get that Cobra.
but for me, it's like, it's a little bit of accountability. Like, oh man, I can't,
You can't act stupid.
Just be cautious, because I'm like, and now I'm actually physically.
Yeah, you're representing the
They
brand.
know where I'm.
It's like me wearing my work shirt with the Franklin Personal
Dude,
Fit
same
shirt.
thing.
going
If
to
I'm
eat
wearing
tacos.
if I'm wearing my company shirt,
Yeah.
with my logo on it, I'm the nicest,
Yeah.
happiest go luckiest guy in town, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing, like, so like, I like that, but what we forget is, we kind of do wear that badge of being a Christian no matter where we go. Because if you're out there, we've talked about this, like you're bad about smiling and like just being kind of outgoing in public. But how many times has God put people in your path and you just had to strike up conversation? You're like, oh man, it ended up being really cool.
Yeah.
Like, those conversations come up, and eventually those conversations are going to lead to, I go to church here, there, and here's my story. And
Well, it's funny you say that. That's how I met Brooks, who's going to come on our show, because he goes to my parents' church, and he started talking to me in the car rider line, and he recognized me, and then we both started talking, so it's kind of funny. You just never know who God's going to put in your life.
you just never know where God's going to put you in general, and who he's going to put you in front of. And so you got to wear that badge of like, I represent more than myself at this point. And get out of your own way. But
it's like anything else, man. I think it's a daily work in progress, and you have to put effort into it. That's where the discipline piece can come in. But I think too, like, don't overcomplicate it. Church gets really complicated. It's very political. It's very, there's various cliques in there. And I think at the end of the day, it's about giving people grace, but also just being a decent person, man. Like, just treat people with respect and
stop being lazy.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Bye, y'all.